October, the United States has just lost another 1 million jobs since the wave of layoffs began. More than 7.6 million people now have no idea how they will pay next month's rent. And there is a truth no one wants to say out loud. Many people are not poor because they are lazy. They are poor because America is now too expensive to exist. But right at that moment, there were people who did something bolder. They took $200, an amount only enough to pay an electricity bill, and turned it into a house facing the ocean, a life that becomes 70% lighter, and a morning they truly want to wake up to. You may not believe it, but out there, $200 a month is not the fee to live, but the ticket to live again. Today, I will take you to 3 places that are rescuing an entire generation of Americans from exhaustion. The coastlines where $200 a month is enough for you to have a home, have the sea, have peace, and a real way out. Who knows, maybe one of these 3 places is the door you've been needing. Dream it. Pack it. Go. 1. Matara and Weligama, Sri Lanka. There are places that don't need to advertise with words. Just one morning standing in front of the ocean is enough to make your heart break open. Not from pain, but from lightness. And Sri Lanka is one such place. A place where you step off the last bus of the day, breathe in your first breath of ocean wind, and realize a truth no one ever told you. Life doesn't have to be expensive to be kind. In the far south of this island, in Matara and Weligama, there are small roads leading straight to an ocean as blue as glass, red roofs tucked under coconut palms, and rental signs that make any American stop for a few seconds because they can't believe their eyes. House for rent, $225 month. A small number, but for many people, it is the door that opens an entirely new life. Matara and Weligama are not noisy tourist spots. Here, time moves slowly like the rhythm of the waves. The low yellow houses sit quietly among banana gardens. Trains glide right along the edge of the sea, as if slowly rewriting an old story. And the local people smile at you with bright eyes. Eyes that remind you that in some places in the world, people still look at each other with uncalculated kindness. In the morning, Weligama's ocean wakes up with sunlight poured like honey. Men pull nets just a few meters from the shore. Children run barefoot on the sand, and tea shops open to welcome customers when the sun is still resting on the horizon. You sit on a wooden chair, order a hot cup of Ceylon tea for $0.40, and feel as if you have just found a lost piece of memory, a simple, warm, and complete life in a very different way. The houses here are just like the Sri Lankan people, not showy, but warm enough that you find yourself wanting to stay longer. A studio 400-600 meters from the beach, clean, with a ceiling fan and strong Wi-Fi, costs only $150-220 month. A 1-bedroom unit fully furnished, with a balcony facing the garden or the sea, costs $200-260 month, according to 2024-2025 data from Nomads and Nomadleo. Going deeper into the small roads near Matara Market or near the Pere Dewa Temple, you can find private houses with red roofs, white walls, and small flower gardens, priced at $250-300 month and only a few minutes walk to the beach. Not luxurious, not flashy, but they have something that America took away from you many years ago: peace. And that very feeling has kept many Americans here. People who came to escape the cold winds back home, but stayed to escape the bills. One of them is Jeff, 58, formerly a truck driver in Texas. When rent in the U.S. rose to a level he could no longer afford, he decided to go to Sri Lanka simply because the plane ticket was cheap. He planned to stay 3 weeks, But one morning in Weligama, Jeff saw a sign that said 225 USD month. He walked in, saw the sunlight pouring through the window, heard the sound of waves just behind the garden, and froze. "I've never had a moment that peaceful," Jeff said. A month later, he flew back to the US, sold his last truck, then returned to Sri Lanka with only one backpack. And from that day on, he never looked back. Weligama and Matara are even cheaper than you think. Fresh fish, 2-3 USD kg. A family meal, 1.5-2.5 USD. Fruit, 0.5-1 USD. A full day with 3 meals sometimes costs the same as one fast food meal in the US. And strangely, you always receive more than what you pay. A full plate, a smile, a simple ayubawan. Even the land here is gentle. In Polena, Matara, or the roads leading to Weligama Beach, land prices currently range from 85-160 USD M2, with road access, electricity, and municipal water. Which means with just 18,000-30,000 USD, you can buy a plot large enough to build a tiny home facing the ocean. In this world, places with blue seas and coastal land at such prices are becoming extinct, but Sri Lanka still has them. Of course, this place is not perfect. The rainy season sometimes arrives quickly. The streets can be a bit chaotic, and the infrastructure cannot compare to Thailand. But if you ask the Americans who have lived here for years, they will simply smile and say, "Because here I sleep better." I will tell you a small story, but enough to change an entire life. Linda used to be a nurse, living in a small apartment in Ohio. She retired when her back started to hurt, but her pension was only enough to cover medication and part of her rent. 3 years ago, she lost her husband. Alone in a cold room, she said that even the sound of the refrigerator running at midnight made her feel lonely. Then one day, her daughter suggested, "Mom, go somewhere for a while. You don't have to live like this anymore." She chose Sri Lanka for one simple reason. It's cheap, and it's far enough for my heart to rest. She arrived in Weligama in February. The sun was gentle. The sea breeze lifted her hair the way it did when she was young. While walking along the beach, she saw a white sign with blue letters. 1-bedroom house, 230 USD self-care month. She laughed, thought it was a joke, but she knocked on the door. A Sri Lankan woman stepped out and invited her in with a smile so wide it almost made Linda burst into tears. The little house was clean, had a kitchen, a big bed, and a window facing the coconut garden. She asked, "How far to the beach?" The woman smiled and pointed. "Right there." Linda stepped outside and counted. 87 steps. She told herself, "Never in my life has the ocean been this close." On the 3rd day, she learned how to buy fish in the morning for just 2 USD. On the 7th day, she learned how to drink hot tea for 0.40 USD with the women in the market. On the weekend, she sat on the beach and wrote one line in her notebook. "I used to think my life was over. Who knew it was just beginning?" 3 months later, Linda returned to the US only to close her bank account, liquidate her belongings, then came back to Sri Lanka, this time to live. And she said a sentence that any American who hears it would feel a sting. "In America, I lived to pay bills. Here, I live to breathe." According to 2025 data, the total average living cost for one person in Matara or Weligama, including housing, food, utilities, internet, and transportation, is only 550 to 850 USD month. A number that leaves many Americans speechless. Not because they doubt it, but because for the first time they see a future they can actually afford. Sri Lanka, in a very quiet and very slow way, teaches you that life doesn't need to be fast, and it doesn't need to be expensive. It only needs the right place. The right moment and the right morning, with the sound of waves reminding you that you also deserve happiness. And if you've read this far and your heart feels a little warm, let that feeling lead you to the comment section. Who knows, a few lines you write today might be the first step of a new journey you never dared to imagine. 2. Khanom, Thailand. There is a beach in Thailand as beautiful as Koh Samui, but the rent costs only the same as an electricity bill in the US. People call it the secret coast of Thailand. Thailand holds a very special role. This is one of the rare places in Southeast Asia where you can rent a house or an apartment facing the ocean for only about $200 a month, while still living within a 45-minute radius of an international airport, an international hospital, and all the modern conveniences that an American wanting to start over will always need. And if there is one town that is quietly becoming Thailand's true low-cost paradise, it is Khanom, a seaside town in Nakhon Si Thammarat, facing Koh Samui, but 70% cheaper than Samui, quieter than Phuket, and preserving almost everything people have lost at crowded beaches. Khanom has something that makes anyone visiting for the first time stop for a few seconds. Nadan Beach. A beach more than 8 kilometers long, with fine sand, calm waves, water stretching to infinity, and the rarest thing in this noisy tourism era, almost not a single person in sight. The loudest sound you hear here is not cars, not club music, but birds and wind. Khanom feels like the last remaining page of an old book, where Thailand is still gentle, slow, and kind to strangers. Stretching along that beach, there is an apartment building considered the town's little legend, Khanom Beach Residence, the only condominium, modest in appearance, but with an oceanfront view that even $2,000 apartments in Maui might not have. Inside each one-bedroom unit is a spacious enough layout for an American living long-term to feel comfortable. A bright living room, a large sofa, a smart TV, a full kitchen, a big refrigerator, and a long balcony that opens to the blue ocean. The best unit here costs around $695 USD month. Lower floor units are about $445 USD month, and many long-term renters have negotiated down to $415 USD month. These numbers, compared to Phuket or Samui, where beachfront apartments average $701 $200 USD month, are unbelievable. Khanom is cheap not because it is less beautiful, but because it is not yet discovered. But what truly makes Khanom stand out is not the $400 or $600 apartments. It is the private houses, the cute little bungalows, located right across from the ocean, just 20 to 40 meters from the waves, with rents ranging from $195 to $278 USD month. Each unit has air conditioning, a large bed, a TV, a refrigerator, a mini kitchen, Wi-Fi, and a small yard for drying clothes. Not luxurious, but clean, neat, and so close to the sea that every morning you only need to open the door to see the ocean right in front of you. This is the true $200 USD month segment, a price Americans can hardly believe still exists in a tourism-developed country like Thailand. Going deeper into the town, you will come across other surprises. Leveled plots of land, located only 5 to 6 minutes drive from the beach, with clearly marked boundary posts, road access all the way in, and completed infrastructure with grid electricity and municipal water. Land prices in 2025 in areas near the beach range from about $80 to $320 USD M2, meaning that with $20,000 to $40,000 USD, you can already own a piece of land large enough to build a tiny home or a one-story house. In the US, $20,000 USD is only enough to pay a few months of rent. But in Khanom, it buys a piece of the future and a piece of peace. Life in Khanom is also gentle enough that you easily forget how fast you used to live. A Thai-style breakfast costs only about $0.80120 USD, a full lunch 2 to 3 USD, a cappuccino around 1.20 USD, a foot massage just 4.6 USD, and a cold Singa beer 1.60 USD. You can sit at No Name Bar, a rustic beachfront bar with hammocks, herbal cocktails, and soft breezes, and let life slow down to the rhythm of the waves. Though quiet, Khanom is still very well connected. Only about 45 minutes to Surat Thani International Hospital, Central Retail Mall, or Surat Thani Airport, where you can fly directly to Bangkok, Singapore, or Kuala Lumpur. One afternoon, at that very Khanom beach residence, there was an American man in his 60s sitting on the balcony, holding a cup of coffee, eyes looking down at the empty beach. He used to live in Houston, paying more than $1,900 a month for an apartment with no balcony, no ocean, and the only neighbor he heard every night was the sound of ambulances. When a friend invited him to Thailand for a 2-week trip, he stopped by Khanom simply because he missed the ferry to Samui. He stayed here 3 nights, then a week, then a month. When he signed the lease for an apartment for $450 a month, he said one very simple sentence: "I'm not young enough anymore to live in places that are expensive but don't make me feel peaceful." His story is not an exception. It is the common pattern of many foreigners who come to Khanom. They are not chasing a tourist paradise. They just want a place that allows them to breathe slower. And what makes Khanom the top choice for foreigners is that the total living cost for one person, including housing, food, transportation, utilities, and internet, falls around $600–850 USD per month, depending on lifestyle. It is the strange balance between beautiful beaches, cheap housing, abundant land, low cost, international infrastructure nearby that makes Khanom the country opening today's journey. A coastline where $200 a month not only rents you a roof, but also gives you a pace of life so slow, clean, and light that you feel like you are returning to yourself. Not every paradise is perfect. Currently, Khanom is in the region affected by the southern Thailand floods of 2025. If you plan to visit, please check the situation beforehand. If peaceful places like this make you feel lighter, leave a gentle like, and hit subscribe so I have more motivation to find even more beautiful places for you in the next video. 3. Puerto Escondido, Mexico. There are places you only intend to visit once just to see, but then they stand up, walk straight into your heart, and open a door you thought you would never dare to touch in your entire life. Puerto Escondido is one of those places. A small town lying quietly on the Pacific coast, where the sunrise carries a soft, golden light that makes you want to stand still and let the world drift by slowly. It is the place where many Americans arrive exhausted, burnt out, and stuck, then leave with something they lost long ago: hope for a life that can actually be lived. Puerto Escondido is not Cancun glowing with bright lights, nor is it the trendy, resort-filled Tulum. On the contrary, it feels like the part of Mexico the world has forgotten. Red dirt roads cutting through palm forests, an ocean blue as ink, small neighborhoods where people hang warm yellow lanterns at night, and eateries that only close when the food runs out, not when the clock says so. This place is so gentle that you feel as if you're stepping into a town that belongs to another era, a place where life has not yet been disturbed by haste. But what truly shocks Americans is not the ocean, or the sunlight, or the peace. It is the rent. In a place where you can hear the waves from your bedroom, feel the sea breeze pass through your porch, and walk 5 minutes to touch the sand. Long-term rent is only $180–250 USD month for a small casita with its own kitchen, a large bed, a ceiling fan, and Wi-Fi. The more spacious one-bedroom units, with gardens and fully equipped kitchens, are listed at $220–$280 USD month, and the studios with porches facing the palm gardens, with sea breeze drifting in every morning, are only around $200–$260 USD month. These are not luxury units sitting right on the water, but they are places where you can walk 6 to 10 minutes and reach the beach. And all of these prices are real, taken from expat groups, long-term listings 2024–2025, and local landlords. The moment you first step into the town, you immediately understand why Americans stay so long. In the morning, the sun rises slowly as if it doesn't want to disturb anyone. The ocean is blue in a way that makes people exhale softly, because that shade of blue isn't meant to impress. It's meant to fall into. On the small slopes leading down to Playa Carrizalillo, each step is a layer of light. With every step downward, your exhaustion slips a little further behind you. Meeting Mexicans here doesn't feel like meeting strangers. They smile with their eyes, say, "Buenos dias," with a warmth so real that you forget you ever had to be on guard when walking in an American city. Life in Puerto Escondido is simple in a way that makes your heart want to soften. Fresh fish at the morning market costs only 3 to 4 USD kg. A full meal, 2–3 USD. A mango or pineapple smoothie, 1–1, 2 USD. A cup of rich, traditionally roasted Mexican coffee, 1–1.5 USD. In-town taxis that are actually small pickup trucks, 0.801.20 USD. Hot corn tortillas from roadside carts, 0.50 USD. You don't need to calculate every detail. You don't need to write down fixed monthly expenses like in the US. You just live. And strangely, you get to live in the exact way your money should be able to afford. For many Americans, more important than cheap prices is the feeling of safety. Puerto Escondido is located in the state of Oaxaca, one of the calmest and most stable regions in Mexico, where cartel crime rarely touches coastal life, where neighborhoods are mainly families, fishermen, artists, and foreigners seeking a lighter life. In the evenings, you will see women walking home after work, expats reading books in late-night cafes, children playing soccer under warm yellow lights, the kind of light that makes everything feel as safe as an old TV show. Healthcare here is also something that surprises Americans. Private clinics have fast service. Consultation fees are only 20 to 40 USD. Medication is 7 to 80% cheaper than in the US. And dental care is so cheap that Americans often fly to Mexico just to get their teeth done. As for visas, you get 180 days in Mexico without any paperwork, just a US passport. If you want to stay longer, you can apply for a temporary resident visa. The procedure is simpler than in many Asian countries. But all of those things, the ocean, the sunlight, the low prices, the food, the safety, are still not what truly leaves a mark of Puerto Escondido on viewers' hearts. What leaves the mark are stories like the story of Mark, 61, from Arizona. Mark is not a special person. He is an ordinary American man, worked at USPS for 32 years, believing that retirement would bring some peace. But then his apartment increased by 400 USD month. Medical bills stretched from month to month, and he realized a painful truth that many Americans are also realizing. He was living to pay money, not living to live. He came to Mexico only because of a video similar to the one you are making today. In that video, they talked about a casita for 240 USD month. He didn't believe it, but he booked the ticket. And on the third day, while walking down to Carrizalillo, he stopped. The ocean was blue like something sacred. The wind blew against his face as if to say, "You don't have to endure anymore." When he met the local landlady, she took him inside to see a white casita. The tile floor was cool under his feet. The light scent of dish soap lingered, and the wooden porch was wide enough for 2 chairs. Mark asked, "How far is it to the beach?" She smiled and said, "Can you hear the waves? That's the distance." He stood still, saying nothing. Because for the first time in many years, he no longer heard the sound of bills in his head, only the sound of waves. And that night, he cried. Not because he was sad, but because for the first time he felt that his life was not over. 3 weeks later, Mark returned to the U.S., sold his old car, packed his belongings, then came back to Mexico with 2 suitcases and a lighter heart. Now he lives in a small alley, walks to the beach every morning, sits down on the wet sand and says, "I'm not retiring. I'm starting to live." Based on all 2025 data, the actual cost of living in Puerto Escondido for one person falls around $600–900 USD month, including housing, food, internet, utilities, transportation, and essentials. And what's worth noting is this. This is not cut-back living, but real living, living kindly, living with quality. Mexico is not a paradise, but Puerto Escondido is the place where life returns to its true size. Small enough, gentle enough, warm enough for you to breathe without feeling heavy. A coastal town where with just $200 USD month, you can trade an old chapter of life for a chapter worth living. And if while reading this, your heart warms up just a little, leave a gentle line of words. Not for me to see, but so you know that the moment you write it down might be the beginning of the most beautiful part of your life you never dared to dream. Finally, what these 3 places show very clearly is this. A decent life doesn't have to be expensive. Sometimes, just a few hours of flying out of the U.S. is enough for you to step into a world where $200 a month is enough to have a home, a beach, and have yourself back again. If at any moment in this video you thought, "I deserve to live gentler than this," then maybe you are already ready for a new chapter. If these coastlines make your heart feel lighter, leave a gentle like, and hit subscribe so I can continue taking you to places that can change your entire life with just one small choice.